And with that, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, the mastermind behind this entire event from Streets to Suites. Kason, come on up here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So you think about this idea, and we've heard these great themes, this idea that you work through your mindset and you get through your fears. You reframe to reclaim not only your work, but yourself. And that sets me up well for what I'm going to talk to you all about is this idea of getting unstuck. So if you want to have a meaningful and fulfilling career in life, at the end of the day, all you have to do is design it. So you got to ask yourself, how do I go about doing that? And that really is the $1,000,000 question. It's all about how do you figure out what is next and what will get you unstuck? Is it more money that'll get you unstuck? Is it more meaning and impact? Maybe you want more flexibility in your work, or maybe it's something else. You have to ask yourself these questions. And what I'm here today to help you with is help you figure out where you're going to go next and how you're going to go about doing that. So, a little bit about me. This is the rap sheet, like everyone has spoken to. You know, Bronx born and raised, and I'm a skills nerd. I've made a very, very nice career for myself out of thinking about skills and thinking about how do people do better at work and even in life outside of work. That's led me to a role as a Fortune 100 executive. I'm also a certified career and life design strategist. And that's allowed me to do a lot of different things. But one of my favorite jobs is being a girl dad. I have 4 beautiful, beautiful, beautiful daughters. But in this journey, that's allowed me in this time to make 9 strategic promotions, redesign my career using this narrative of learning and skills over 7 times across 5 different industry sectors, all while running 3 different businesses outside of that work. So this is why I'm here with you today to really just talk about like, what's the current state of work life right now? What is this normal? And these are the real facts. Right now, a lot of people spend a lot of time working, up to 80,000 to 125,000 hours working. Do you know that's 33 years of your life? 33 years. So you got to ask yourself, what do you want to do with that time? But when you think about it, only a few years from now, research says that over 50% of people need to learn new skills. We're in 2022, 2025. Half your skills that you have are going to be irrelevant. So when you think about that, though, the next challenge is that more than 61% of people said they don't have time to upskill or reskill. And that's a problem. And what's happening as a result? In the US, more than 69% of folks in work right now are disengaged. Globally, it's even higher at 80%. And with all that being said, you all have heard of the Great Resignation. And those numbers are looking crazy too right now, with more than 40% of people actively in work either saying they will quit and move to another job, or they're actually doing it. So you got to ask yourself, what does that tell us? That tells us that change is our only constant. And you have to do something differently. You know, we have to think about our careers differently and the idea of careers. And so what I want to do before I get into talking about how to get unstuck is I want to give you guys a framework about the journey of what career 1.0 is to where we are right now, which is career 4.0. So when you think about career 1.0, that happened from the 50s to the 80s. That basically was the idea that you wait your turn. You work in one place, you do a good job, you keep your head down, and if you're lucky, you get to management or you get to the role that you want. And that's even harder for our communities. But that was the typical timeline for folks. So when you move to career 2.0, the 80s and 90s, it's a different narrative. It's like now you manage your own career. Back in the day, the company took care of you for doing hard work. In the 90s, it was like you have to go do it yourself. And how did people do that? That's when LinkedIn popped up. That's when other platforms started popping up. That's when people started moving to their own jobs or jumping to new companies to get to that next level. And right now, we're really in the thick of this idea of the 3.0, which is how do you grow your career through different experiences? So it's not just about, hey, I want this job title. It's about Does my work give me meaning? Does it impact me? What's my purpose in that work? But what I'm here to tell you is really the next wave is this idea of the 4.0, which is skills being your new currency. Right now, it's going to be less about whether you have the fancy degree, whether you have the fancy job title. It's going to be about, can you do the work? Can you show me that you can do the work? And now more than ever, we have the agency to do that. We can share our own portfolios online. We can learn through lots of different avenues in order to move forward. And skills are truly the new currency, and it's going to be that way going forward. So if you take anything away from this section, 1.0 and 2.0 are dead. 3.0 and 4.0, that's the new fire right now. And this is happening right now. So with that being said, you can't just wish your way to a 4.0 mindset to get unstuck. You got to build your way forward. That's the only way you can do it now. And the way I propose you doing that, and again, as Gishard said in his section, I have 4 stages that work for me. The first stage is this idea of defining your destination. The challenge with a lot of professionals in today's world is that we often go down the paths or live the dreams of others. We very rarely take the time to figure out what we want to do. And that's why it's very, very important to define, based on your values, your work view, and your life view, where you want to go next. And once you do that, you start to discover pathways. And what I mean by pathways is that you talk to people. Once you have an idea of where you are and an idea of where you want to go based on what you value, you find others. You find communities of practice. You have curious conversations. And as you have those conversations, what you start to realize is that there are commonalities, things that connect with you, or it'll tell you that this doesn't work for me. And that's why you have to discover those pathways by getting curious and speaking to others and figuring out your next stage. Once you're able to do that, the next stage is actually, let me go back one, is to fuel your strategy. Because by having those conversations, now you're moving to a point of, how do I make these moves? What are the skills that I need? Do I need to go back and get education? Do I need to just try a new job? Or maybe do I need to work at another company? And that's when you figure out your how. You put the gas in your car, so you figure out where you're going to go. And the beauty here is that you can do that in the job that you're in. You can do that volunteering in other ways. There's lots of ways you can do and learn and fuel your strategies going forward. You're not just stuck in the work that you do. And then the last stage is you have to take action, period. If you don't act, you won't move forward. And through action, you're able to accelerate your strategy and understand what's working for you, what's not working for you. So that experimenting and acting is very, very critical because it informs your perspective. So to summarize the 4 stages, it's all about figuring out your destination. It's all about outlining what paths based on having really good conversations. It's about fueling your strategy. And then lastly, you have to accelerate. You have to put the pedal on the gas once you know what your strategy is. It's not about being successful. It's just about doing the work and trying stuff and giving yourself your space to do that. So when you think about this in this way. You're looking at what you do well, right? And then you're thinking about, what do you want to do? And then the third thing you look at is, what can I be paid to do? And when you look at all 3 of these things, there are some intersections. Now, if you go to the far right and you realize there are things that overlap there, this is good. You can get paid to do that. But I would say, learn to say no. Because the problem here is that you're sticking yourself in the spaces that you're familiar with. You can do it well and you can be paid to do it, but is it really what you want to do? Once you move past that and you get more to that bottom section where there's an overlay between what you want to do and what you can be paid to do, now this is where you double down and you learn to get really, really good at those things. This is where the experimenting happens, the trying stuff happens, right? Now, if you go to the far left and there are things that you can do well and you actually want to do them, these are the things that you monetize. and you go out there and you make money, because the goal right now is to have as many streams as you can, is to have a portfolio of things that can make you the living that you want to do. Because in a post-pandemic world, the one thing that's consistent is that your fancy job and your fancy title is not going to keep you sustainable. You have to do things that mean something to you, and you have to try different things. So when you think about those three sections, really the golden spot is that middle. If you can get into that middle target, that's the intersection of all the things that matter. What you want, what you do well, what you want to do, and what you can actually get paid to do. And that ultimately keeps you happy and unstuck. So this may look like something that one of my daughters has drawn. I know it's crazy, it's scribbles, right? But let me show you something. This right here is the first part of my career. So I moved in a very linear fashion, going up from undergraduate studies into luxury marketing, into graduate studies, into management consulting. And then I hit a ceiling and I started thinking about things a little bit differently. So I started contracting. I started my own business. I started working for professional services. And then I hit a point where I went into tech. And that technology point then allowed me to springboard into all these other things that I'm doing right now. So when I talked about doing, jumping 5 sectors, getting 9 promotions, I focus on leadership development, personal branding, thought leadership, life coaching. I recently became a board member. I do consulting. I'm public speaking to you guys today. And there's still some other things that I want to do going forward. And the beauty of that here is that when you're in this 4.0 world, you take the skills you have and you start trying to do new things. And that will help you figure out what's next. So if you remember anything, you just have to remember that you can't just wish forward. You have to get unstuck. And when you do that, you become unstoppable. And your skills are the new currency for doing that. Thank you very much.